Okay, imagine this. You're watching a rock band on stage, right? Guitars wailing, drums pounding, and then, out of nowhere, the guitarist smashes their instrument to pieces. We've all seen this, right? But have you ever stopped to think, why? Why would someone destroy their own tool of creation? Today, we're diving into the origin story of guitar smashing, yes, that iconic rock stunt, and trust me, it's way more fascinating than you'd expect. But here's the twist, the guy who started it all wasn't even a rock star. He was a synth nerd who later helped shape Stevie Wonder's sound. Let that sink in for a second. Beat, alright, let's unpack this /n/n. So, most people credit Pete Townshend of The Who for inventing the guitar smash. And sure, he made it iconic. But here's what fascinates me, Townshend himself admitted he stole the idea. Stole it from a guy named Malcolm Cecil, a session musician turned synth pioneer who was about to become Stevie Wonder's producer. Wait, the man who helped create Innovisions also taught rock musicians to destroy their gear? That juxtaposition is wild. Let me explain /n/n. Picture 1960s London. You've got these young musicians treating their instruments like sacred objects, until Malcolm Cecil walks into a lecture hall at Ealing Tech. Now, here's a dude who could have been a jazz bassist his whole life, but instead, he decides to saw through his bass strings with a literal saw. Townshend was in the audience, and he said the room exploded. People were cheering, not because Cecil was a destructive maniac, but because he was rejecting musical purity. He was saying, this instrument isn't holy, it's just a tool to make a statement. And that, folks, is where rock and roll crossed into performance art /n/n. What many people don't realize is that Cecil's influence didn't stop at destruction. He later worked with Stevie Wonder, creating these groundbreaking synth arrangements that redefine soul music. So you've got this weird thread, a guy who starts by smashing instruments ends up shaping some of the most innovative music of the 70s. That duality fascinates me. Is there a connection between breaking things and building something new? I'd argue yes. The same rebellious energy that made Cecil destroy his bass also made him push technological boundaries with Stevie Wonder. It's like destruction is just the first step to creation /n/n. Now, let's get real for a second. Why did this act of smashing guitars become so iconic? Was it rebellion? Marketing? Or was it something deeper? Townshend called it marketing himself, which I find hilarious. Because on one hand, it's calculated crowd manipulation. On the other, it's this primal scream against perfectionism in music. Think about it, rock and roll was born from chaos, and smashing a guitar is the ultimate rejection of neatness. It's messy, it's loud, it's human /n/n. But here's the thing that bugs me, why do we still care about this? Why does a 60-year-old stunt still feel relevant? Maybe because it represents something fundamental about art. The best creators aren't just skilled, they're willing to burn it all down to make a point. Cecil did it with a saw. Townshend did it with a smash. Today's artists do it with digital chaos, AI-generated madness, whatever. The medium changes, but the message stays the same /n/n. So next time you see someone smashing a guitar, or maybe a TikTok musician breaking a synth, don't just dismiss it as a gimmick. Think about Malcolm Cecil. Think about how destruction can be creation. And remember, sometimes the loudest statements come from breaking the very tools you use to make noise. What do you think, was this the birth of performance art in music? Or just a bunch of overhyped tantrums? Drop your thoughts below, and if you want more stories where music history gets weird, hit that subscribe button.